One of the key points that a lot of people miss is that right after somebody books the property, that's when the communication starts. And that's really not just the communication. Consider that's when your customer experience starts.
Hi, I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Grace.
And you're listening to our dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Sean Moore, and we've got a really good conversation lined up for you today. Miss Andrea Bellofiore is joining us, and she's going to talk about her journey into short-term rentals. So, Andrea, thanks so much for joining us and being willing to have this conversation with us today.
Thanks, Sean. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. These are always my favorite episodes where we can dive in, talk to investors that are getting into the short-term rental game. And I always say there's so many lessons to be learned from everybody's journey. We all have different journeys. And I always like to have these conversations, but I always love to start, Andrea, if you don't mind, rewind the clock a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're at, where you're from, and then also what got you interested and ultimately running down the road of short-term rental investing.
Sure. So my husband, Tony, and I are partners in this process, and we live in Connecticut, and our vacation rental home is down in Lake Norman, North Carolina, which is quite a distance from us. He's a software engineer, and I have been in aging services my entire career. So working with helping nursing homes and assisted livings and so on. So very far away from real estate, but it's something I've always been interested in. I've always toyed around with the idea of getting my realtor's license, which hopefully will happen this year, just because I want it. So we finally decided just to go down this road a couple of years ago after we went to Lake Norman on vacation during COVID and fell in love with the area and saw it as a means to an end that, we could have this wonderful house for our own enjoyment, but vacation rental it out and have someone else pay for the expenses and the upkeep.
Awesome. So no background investing in other asset classes or other real estate prior to this?
We had bought one house in 1997 and that was it.
That was it. All right. So we decided, hey, we're going on a vacation. We realized we're paying somebody else's mortgage, which is a common thing, right? Yep. When especially as short-term rentals have become more and more popular from the visitor standpoint, a lot of the people that we talked to, that's how they got interested in the game in the first place, is they went and they were staying. It sounds like that's what led you guys and piqued your interest level is went down to Lake Norman, enjoyed it, saw what you were paying somebody else and thought maybe we can do this on our own, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were traveling with another friends and we started looking for houses that vacation. And our husband's like, what are you doing? Why are we wasting our vacation looking at houses? Why are you dragging us all around the lake? We're never going to buy a house. And then they bought one 6 months later and we joined them like a year and a half later.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That sounds like mine and Teresa's vacations. Every time we go, everywhere we go, we feel like we're going to buy a place there, right? We're like, oh, this is so fun. And that's what the second half of the vacation always ends up being, looking at houses. And so now we just kind of plan for it. So you got, you went down there, you visited the property, you got interested, and then did you instantly say, hey, this is the place that we want? Or did you explore other markets? Did you start to say, okay, maybe there's other options? Or were you like, hey, we really fell in love with this area. We want to buy this lifestyle asset down here. We want to figure out how to supplement it, make money with it. And, or did you kind of explore different avenues before you decided this is the road we're running down?
We always knew we never wanted to stay in Connecticut long term. We were born here. Our whole life has been here. We're tired of the winter. The high taxes and everything. So as our kids aged, we're just like, okay, well, where are we going to move to? So every time we went to a different area of the country, we're like, could we see ourselves living here full time? Whatnot. And usually the answer was no. Both of us independently on this vacation came to the conclusion I could see ourselves living here long term. Gotcha. So it originally started as let's buy the lake house now while the prices are still relatively affordable and have someone, rent it out. And then in a couple of years, we'll move down and we'll live in this awesome lake house. And once we started renting it, it quickly turned into, this is an awesome income generating opportunity. And we'll never move into this house. We'll just keep it as a vacation rental and use it when it's not in use. And when we do move down there, we'll have to buy something else. We totally flipped on what our original intention was.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting because I always say there's really three major type of buyers that we identify when we're running down and talking to somebody in that acquisition phase is trying to identify our buyer type. One of them is a lifestyle buyer. They're saying, hey, listen, I want to buy a vacation home in a market that I would love to use it, but it's, I need to make some money with it as well. But I'm interested in areas that I want to go use personally. Then you've got the straight investor buyer that's saying, I don't really care the area because I'm not going to use it that much. I just really like this asset class. I want to maximize my earning potential and buy in markets that have the highest earning potential. And then you have the retirement buyer, or the, down the line, I'm going to buy the property that we want like now to supplement, make money with, and then ultimately move into. And that's what sounds like where you guys started as kind of the retirement buyer is, we're going to buy the property now, use it to make money, and then we're going to, ultimately move into it and not have it as an investment. It ultimately becomes your primary home. And then, but that's shifted, it sounds like, right? The plans have changed?
Completely shifted.
So now is it more like, hey, it's a lifestyle asset where we're going to use it when it's not available, or when it's available and not being used, but we're going to keep it in the investment portfolio?
And we're going to definitely keep it in the investment portfolio, use it when it's not in use. The kids, they're 21 and 18, are all gung-ho about it, talking about when they inherit the house, how they're going to run it. So it's definitely a planning on, God willing, it being a long-term asset for us, because we all love Lake Norman and it's our happy place when we go. And we just stumbled across it. I mean, it's not like it's a major vacation market. Yeah,
regionally, it's fairly well known, right? Mm-hmm. There's, like you said, it's a huge lake. A lot of people in the region are going there. It's not necessarily a national destination market type of a thing, but regionally, it's fairly well known, and there's enough traffic there, and there's a lot of beautiful lake, beautiful property. So you guys visited during COVID. When did you take the plunge and start to say, okay, we're starting to look at properties? How long did that process take when you really got serious about looking? I know you were kind of looking right out of the gate, but when you really got serious and then you started making offers, doing that, what was that time frame? What did that look like?
It was about a year and a quarter later. So I had monitored the market during that year and a quarter and kept abreast as to what was selling, and this was all before I joined Vodyssey. I'd never even heard of Vodyssey. So I was doing my own underwriting, contacting other owners, asking questions. Are you turning, cash flow positive? What's your experiences on it, the hardships, what's easy? And it was, testing the market my way to get information. Meanwhile, my husband's saying, why are you wasting your time doing that? We're never going to buy anything. I would say September of 21, we got really serious. We finally felt we had saved enough money for the down payment. We were in a good place, and we said, okay, let's go down. Let's, meet with an agent. We went down for a weekend, toured a couple homes, didn't find anything that we really liked, but they had a really good understanding as to what we were looking for. So they continued searching for us. And by the end of October, the perfect property came on the market late on a Friday night. I saw the listing, called my agent. They were doing one of those, open house showings over the weekend, best offer by Sunday at 5 p.m. He went in, toured it, communicated to us. We saw the listing pictures. He's like, some houses show better on paper than they do in person. This house shows better in person than it does on paper. They're like, you have to buy this house. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's everything that you want. It's be perfect for you. So we came up with a pricing strategy. We put in the offer and they picked us. So that was it. One offer, one property. I mean, we got lucky.
Which was really rare during that time. That was during the, that post-COVID boom for short-term rentals, vacation homes. I mean, it seemed like every single property that went on had so many offers. And a lot of times you had to make, you lost out on multiple homes before you ended up getting one. So, during that time, that was pretty rare to look at one, make an offer on one, and actually get it. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And sight unseen.
Yeah. That's really, that doesn't happen very often back then. And so, so that's an interesting time to buy, right? It's right during that short-term rental boom, like when everything was doing really well and going up. And so talk to me a little bit about that. I know that you're self-managing the property. Did you plan on that the whole time with, because that was, that's a big decision on, you're 7 hours away. Who's going to manage it? How are you going to navigate the management? So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's right after you buy the property. You've got to make some of those decisions before we start to go live.
It was never really a question of whether or not we were going to use a property management company. It was just, we had decided without saying it that we were going to self-manage. In my W-2 job, I work, 20, 25 hours a week. So I had the capacity in my schedule to do so. Mm-hmm. And I've always been in my professional career, working with people. So I knew I had the people skills, the organizational skills, the project management skills to apply to this. It was just a matter of doing so. And it was during that period of contracting to closing is when I discovered Vodyssey. And I was like, this is the perfect time. I need this. I totally saw the value in it right away and joined and just started the class. So by the time we closed, I'd already done the whole program, which was so helpful.
Yeah. Nice.
And, underwriting it through your way, I was like, okay, so I was right. I can, cover my expenses. So that was our goal, was just to cover expenses.
Yeah.
And we were going to be happy with that. But it was during the period, it was a hard period, with the supply chain shortages, working remotely. We were only going to be able to be down there for certain periods of time to set the house up. So we really had to organize, streamline. Mike Whitfield wasn't part of Vodyssey yet. So my friend and I were doing the designing, ordering things, hours and hours on the internet. So many Amazon returns. I mean,
yeah, right. I've been through some of those setups where I think I returned more than I kept sometimes.
Yeah. And right. So we went down, our closing, I think, was December 16th of 21. We went down the first weekend in December to see the house. And we were like, okay, phew, yes, it is everything he said. We actually do love the house. And we took measurements, and there's a huge furniture store down like an hour or so away called Furnitureland South. And they have a 1 million square feet of outlet. So we're like, okay, we have to go buy furniture. So it's delivered when we come down December 26th. So we have furniture in the house. So we started buying bedroom sets and couches and whatnot before we actually closed on the house. And
so you bought the house was unfurnished, completely unfurnished. You started from scratch.
Yeah. We pulled into town late December 26th after a 12-hour drive, went to Walmart and bought air mattresses. And then went to Chinese restaurant and got takeout and had to ask for, plastic silverware and plates and cups. Cause we had nothing.
Yeah.
And went to bed, and the next morning at 7:30 a.m., I had a whole bunch of furniture delivered. So that was, great timing, and it made it a productive week because we had a semblance of, living. So he had his laundry list of things that he wanted to do. I had my laundry list of what I wanted to do, and we just tackled the house, with fixing it up.
That's awesome. So you were there a week. You took a week to do that. Were you able to get it all done? Were you able to get it to the point where, okay. Yeah.
No, it was more of determining what we still needed to do.
Yeah.
And he's very handy. So he wanted to make it a smart home. So he was, putting cameras in and doing the locks and changing all the outlets to programmable things. He had his laundry list of things. And I was interviewing painters and, landscapers and, doing all those, contracting people, housekeepers, so I could start working on developing the team, while I was also going back to the furniture store to buy more furniture and designing what my agenda was that we wanted to accomplish then February when we came down for President's Day week. And so we went back for a week in February for President's Day's week. And I still remember when we pulled down that driveway, we opened down the driveway, there was a mountain of boxes. We opened the garage door, and it was a double garage, mountain of boxes from Amazon Key doing drop-offs. We go to the front door, there was a mountain of boxes. We go inside, there was a mountain of boxes that my neighbors had brought in for me. It was just overwhelming, the number.
So
of
lots
boxes.
of unpacking and lots of putting stuff together at that point.
Yeah. And then we went back for 2 weeks in April, finished the setup, did real estate photography, and launched and went live for booking by the end of April. So we really, while it took us 4 months, it took us 4 weeks. It was just spread out,
spread out over the 4 months. And you're during, it's a lake community, mm-hmm. and so that is, that's before the peak season starts, which is really into May, and so and then you've got those great summertime months. But so you were able to probably like have that time frame where you're like, okay, it was like a 4-week intensive 4 weeks at the property spread out throughout that based on your travel schedule and being able to be there. But was that the plan? Was that the goal, is to launch before the peak season?
Yes, I wanted to have my first vacancy be for May 1st.
So you were able to hit that timeline.
I hit that, and we were booked every weekend in May.
And so that was May of 2022. And then and so then you've got that full summer, last summer, 2023, and then we're rolling into our third summer. So talk to us a little bit about, sounds like a really good launch. First couple of years, like that first year is probably pretty good with, based on the markets that were out there. 2022 was still very strong. Like that was kind of the tail end of the big boom, the post-COVID boom, those 2 years. But you still had, that was still a very, that there was still supply and demand was still in our favor as a host, right?
Yeah. 2022, we turned a profit.
Yeah.
So I surpassed my underwriting, which was just to break even.
Awesome.
And, we took home, about $14,000 profit. So just, not much, but a little bit. And then for 23, we tripled that as our takeaway, which was great, which allowed us to reinvest back into the property.
Great.
Last year, we added a nice big, paver patio with, a Brio fire pit and, the chairs, and we had to do tree work and dock work and, some not so fun things to spend money on, but it allowed us to do those things.
Great to be able to reinvest, right? And have, and having, taking the time to have a really good property in a good area, setting it up correctly, having great, a great customer experience. And ultimately 2023, which in most markets on paper, there was a lot of money being spent in those markets, but everybody's RevPAR went down in 2023, and you were able to experience the exact opposite, which is the goal, right? Is to start to operate in that top 20% of the market that makes the majority of the money now. And, we were talking before we hit record about your, the customer experience, which shows up in your reviews. You do a great job of getting amazing reviews. You said, most of these people are writing novels on their reviews, which is a testament to the customer experience, right? And the overall hospitality that you're providing somebody. And so let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people, the industry average is only 10% of guests leave reviews. And even when you have the automated messages going out saying, please leave me a review, please leave me a review. So let's talk about a little bit about your strategy. One, I know it's a byproduct of a great customer experience, but even properties with good customer experiences, there's a strategy to get more reviews. And we haven't talked about this for a long time on our podcast. We talk about it inside of our course, but are you following that, the strategy of reaching out, reviewing that guest, or are there other things that you're doing as you're self-managing to get that, such a high percentage of your guests to leave 5-star reviews? So
I start my, I want to have an open communication with my guests, and it's a fine line of harassing them too much while they're on vacation, to not being responsive at all. So, when someone, books with me, I'm immediate with, thank you very much. I have a very in-depth digital guidebook with Touch Stay. And I have whole sections devoted to things that you can do prior to your vacation that will make your vacation that much more enjoyable for you. So as soon as someone books, I send that to them and I point out that section. And it's links for how to rent a boat and who to rent it from. And they can deliver it to the house, to all the way down to the Harris Theater down the road, this free grocery gathering for you. I can't think of the word. And all you have to do is drive through, open your trunk, and they put it in. Like, there's no charge for that. So why would you do that? That saves them a whole hour if, to do that, swing in, they go past it on the way to the house. They arrive, they're done. They don't have to go back out. So, I try to think of things that I would want to know that will save them time and at, convenience. Then, right before they come in, it's like, hello, do you have any questions? You're looking forward to having you. Here's your door code, blah, blah, blah. And then the morning after they check in, I just do a little, hey, how's it going? Is everything perfect? Let me know if there's anything that you need while you're there. And I have my people on the ground that are willing to go in. And it could sometimes, most of the time, it's nothing. They say, thank you, perfect time. We'll let you know. Other times it's, hey, is there any way we could get more firewood, for the fire pit? And then I'll call and someone will run over and give them more firewood. Post stay, always send them. Oh, let me backtrack. When they arrive, the housekeeper, leaves them an individual card signed by the whole team. Thank you for staying at Edgewater Escape. We hope you have a wonderful stay. And I leave, as the guest gift, a big pancake mix box with New England maple syrup. Yeah. Connecticut's in New England. And so that way, if they arrive late at night, we provide coffee, creamer, you got your pancakes, you can at least serve your family breakfast before you have to go to the grocery store, if you haven't taken my advice and picked your groceries up to begin with. And then when they leave, they check out, I send them a nice email saying, thank you. We'd love to have you rate or stay. We aim for a 5-star. Hopefully we delivered a 5-star. Our guests, our future guests would love to hear about your experiences. Please, take a moment to share. We truly appreciate it. And, if there's anything that you can think of that would improve our stay for future guests, let us know, and, give them our social media links and whatnot. And 9 times out of 10, I do get a good review.
There is one thing that can make or break your success with short-term rentals, and that's your ability to provide your guests with an amazing night's rest. We're taking all of the guesswork out of selecting the perfect mattress system. Personally, I have these custom mattresses in every one of my short-term rentals. We love them so much that we even got them in our own personal homes here in Utah. So visit VodysseySleepSystem.com and use the promo code PODCAST. It's all caps at checkout to get 55% off.
And I think that one of the key points that a lot of people miss is that right after somebody books the property, that's when the communication starts. And that's really not just the communication. Consider that's when your customer experience starts. And a really good guidebook and a detailed guidebook that is very thought out is critical, but also make sure in that guidebook or in that pre-check-in communication, doing exactly what you're talking about doing and really helping that guest prepare, right? In your case, you're on the lake. How can they get boat rentals? Can it be delivered to the property? Mm-hmm. Those are things that you have to plan ahead. So how can you add to that customer or add to their experience on their vacation of things they can do prior to getting there that they can get reservations for, make some plans for? And they come prepared based on weather or, you're like, a lot of people, if it's a mountain area or, they're not used to fluctuations in temperature, like, hey, make sure it's really warm during the day. Like I live in the mountains in Utah and it's like really, it'll be 90 degrees during the day, but it drops down to 50 degrees at night. And you're like, make sure you're prepared, bring some sweaters and all that. Cause a lot of people don't think about that in July. Right. Yeah. And so little things like that they're very specific to your property, to the area that you can communicate previously to them checking in. One, it sets the expectations that you're a host that really cares, right? It also opens that line of communication up. Should there be something that they showed up with and they weren't happy about, they feel comfortable reaching out and not being so upset about it and being like, I want my money back. I want a refund. I don't like this. You've already helped them. You've already been very communicative on the front end. And so if there is a problem, it allows you and gives you that, they give you a little more grace on the back end if there's a problem for you to come in and fix it. And then they're even more happy, right? And so it's very interesting. I think that that's one of the things that is overlooked and under delivered a lot of times from a lot of hosts is that right after somebody books the property, between when they book and when they check in, having really great communication, but also helping them prepare for the trip. Not just all your rules and regulations at the property. I'm talking about things that are really, hey, here's how you get reservations. Here's where you find groceries. Here's what you should pack as far as clothes. And here's what the weather's like. Different things like that make that trip so much more enjoyable. And
my rules are like this, and all the other fun things is like that. I even have a section of, what do you do if it's a rainy day? Where to go? Yeah. And, there's tons of things to do inside the house, but I have a whole list of, indoor go-karts and, the movie theater and, all that stuff that saves them hopefully time.
So smart.
Where they don't have to Google it themselves.
And I wanted to make sure that was like a clear, that's something that like when you're getting so many good 5-star reviews from the majority of the people who come in the property, that's not the case across the board. 10% of guests leave a review. You're getting way more than that, right? And so there's reasons why. And these types of conversations, I always like to highlight some of those things that people can listen to and say, hey, I could implement that because it seems simple, but it's a big deal in the long run.
Yeah, I calculated it out, and at the time that I did the math, I was 91% capture for reviews on my Airbnb guests and 78% on my Vrbo guests. So it is a high.
Very, very high. That's awesome. I mean, great percentages to track when, I mean, it's a big deal in the long run.
The other thing, which, I thought it was important, which I think a lot of people don't do when they have waterfront properties, is I have a whole section on boating safety.
Yeah.
Because you get these, week-long warriors that have probably never boated or boated once or twice in their life, and they don't know how to read the channel markers or what the rules are, and it can create a dangerous situation out there. So I have a whole section with links to North Carolina, boating rules, and here's all the diagrams and what they mean when you see the markers, and what does no wake zone mean, and if you get stuck, here's the phone number to call for a tow, and here's the locations for the Dock and Dine restaurants, and here's the link to the app, which shows you all the cool places on the lake, even Michael Jordan's old home. It's so you can go and look at it if you care to. But
that's awesome. And it's so smart. I mean, I think that sometimes we take for granted that if we have a lake property or a property, I was just talking to somebody that has a property in Cape Coral on a canal, and the open water is right around the corner, and they have a boat lift and a boat, and they're letting people take it out. And I'm saying, man, you really got to be conscious of realizing that not everybody is used to boats, and not everybody understands, waters and markers and rules and regulations and all those different things. And it's really important, if you're going to do that, to educate that guest, to make it, more enjoyable for them, but also safe for them and everybody else around. Well, Andrea, listen, we're getting kind of toward the end of this conversation, and I love, the where you're at, what you're doing with the property. I always like to, I'm always so appreciative of anybody willing to have these types of conversations. They're my favorite type of conversations, because every single journey has lessons. There's plenty of them in this conversation that as you've gone through this. One of the things I always ask, and at the end of every episode, from somebody that's been running down the road for a little while, is what would you do different? If you could go back and give yourself some advice, is there anything you would have done differently, right? You didn't have a lot of investing experience. You guys dove in. You've been running down, very successful with it. But are there things that you would have changed or would have done different along the way?
Besides the answer that everyone gives was do it sooner.
Right.
When I started my Facebook page, I looked back, because I was like, what the heck do I put on this Facebook page? And then I started looking back through my photos, and I was like, I really wish I took more pictures of the process. So I could have started the Facebook page with the birth of the house.
Yeah.
And showed people, if they cared or didn't care, I don't know, but at least it was content, the evolution of what you go through.
Right.
And the transformation of it. I thought in hindsight, that would have been an interesting thing to do. And if I ever, we're looking for a second home now. So if we ever get to that point, I'll have to remember to do that.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome. I love that piece of advice, right? We love the journey. We love the history of things.
Yeah.
I've been to properties that have the history of the property, like on either artwork or windows, especially if it's an older property, but just the history of the transformation of bringing it to life as a vacation home. It's fun, right? It's a fun thing to see, and you can incorporate that as part of the experience in the home. And what a fun way to, because we're always trying to create this experience. We're always trying to give these properties kind of a soul, right? Tell a story with the property. And sometimes that story is you could simplify, and just the story could be the journey of the property coming to life and turning into what is now a really popular vacation home on the lake, where before it wasn't that. And that's really fun, not only to document it for yourself on the social platforms, on websites, but also in the property. That's a really fun way to do it. And I've seen it done more specifically on really historic properties, but the concept is the same. Just tell the story of the journey. I love that. Yeah. And then the kind of the default that most of us have is, I wish I would have started this sooner. And it's a good piece of advice. We always do, right? We always say, the best time to start investing in real estate was yesterday. Always was, always will be. The next best time is now. So, but you got to start. And when you do, it can be a lot of fun. The journey there's work to be had, right? You're always rolling up your sleeves. You guys are getting ready for almost a new kind of a relaunch with new marketing assets here right around the corner. And that's been a lot of work putting that together. And I'm really excited to see what that does for you guys going into this next season as well. And so really excited to watch the journey continue And I'm sure you're documenting everything now, but it's, and that next one that you, whenever that is, or what market you decide to go to, it'll be fun to watch that. Yeah. So, and I really appreciate you joining us, Andrea. It's been a lot of fun having this conversation. So thanks for joining us and sharing that story.
Can I say one more piece of advice?
Absolutely.
Because I think we've been very fortunate with guests not abusing our home.
Yeah.
And I think it's because when I communicate with them, I'm always saying, we're so excited to have you in our home.
Yes.
And make it personal rather than an object, and it's a business. I mean, it is a business and I'm running it as a business, but it's like you're inviting them into your home. And I think our people, at least, I think, are taking better care of it than they may have had they just thought it was just a house.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And it seems like a small thing. It makes a huge difference. We always tell people in every handwritten note that I write, part of that handwritten note says, hey, Andrea, I hope you enjoy this home as much as we do. This is one of our favorite places. We love this cabin. We love this home, whatever. And we make it personal. Right. And by doing so and communicating with them and telling them, hey, and we just are reiterating that point is, I hope you have as much fun here as we do as a family. I truly believe it's a big deal on how people take care of your home because they want to respect your property. They want to respect it. And it's not just, some, big corporation or investor that has this property and it's just a means to make money, right? We want them to enjoy it as much as we do. And we do talk about it. So really good point to make. And I think you're exactly right. You get better reviews. You get people that take care of the property better because they're like, hey, there's this personal aspect and they relate to it better. We relate to personalities. We don't relate to corporations as much or what people want to have these big brands around their short-term rental portfolio. Like I always just have a picture of us and the family and every handwritten note we do, we say, we hope you enjoy it as much as we do. So really good point to make. Yeah. Awesome, Andrea. Well, let's wrap it up. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you spending your time with us. And so thanks for sharing the story.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely. As well as I did. And I know you guys listening, I'm sure you did as well. And we know how valuable your time is. And we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. I always ask you two favors at the end of every episode. The first one is, if you know somebody else that would like these types of conversations, share the show. Those things really help us spread the message, the word. We don't bring on a bunch of sponsors on these episodes. So the only way we grow is for you to share the show. And then if you have more than 30 seconds, leave us a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Those things do help us. And the final and most important thing that I ask you at the end of every episode is to pick that one thing you can do today, start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.